Good morning, grade 12. We will be starting a new topic which is on chapter 8. It falls under the business role, and that will be team performance assessment and conflict resolution. So when you're talking about conflict in the workplace, it is something that is inevitable. There will always be conflict in the workplace because people actually comes from different background. We have different opinions. We say things in a different way. We have different ways of carrying out our tasks in the workplace. And because of that, there will always be disagreement because everybody wants to be heard, everybody wants to do things in their way. And if you find yourself in the workplace, there's no way you can do things all by yourself. You need to work as a team so that the aim and objective of the business can be achieved. So when you're looking at the introduction, it says conflict is more likely to occur when people with different beliefs and background work together, and a business will not be able to achieve their goals if employees fail to work together in teams. Managers should be familiar with the causes of conflict in order to develop relevant strategies on how to deal with conflicts in the workplace. So it is the responsibility of a manager to actually know what to do when conflict arises in the workplace. And at the same time, management should always expect conflict because they're dealing with people from different background, different cultures, different languages, different nationality, and different ways of doing things, and different ways of seeing things at the same time. So the manager should always come up with a strategy in solving all those problems that can cause chaos or cause conflict in the workplace. So the topic is such an interesting topic, and firstly, I actually want us to look at, we'll be looking at different concepts. I won't be going into that, but I'm going to touch base on every of those content. So I want to quickly go into the key concept of the topic. And when you're talking about the key concept, these are the topics, concepts you'll be actually coming across every now and then before we finish the topic. And what does it mean? It's very important for you to know what it means. At the same time, you can actually find them in the section A of your question paper. So when you're talking about a team, what is a team? A team is a group of people who work together to achieve a common goal. So when you're talking about a common goal, we're talking about just one goal. We are working as a team, like for example, we're looking at the football team. What is the aim and objective of coming together is to win the match in which they find themselves with the opponent. And we have a conflict. When you're talking about a conflict, it is a disagreement or clash of opinion. So when you're talking of a conflict is just when someone disagrees with your opinion, which means they're not saying things the way you're saying it. And you will always find that in the workplace. It is a disagreement of opinion. And when you look at, I will speak about grievance towards the end of the concept. Then we have task. A task refers to activity or a function performed by an individual. So I actually want you to underline that, or a team member. So when you're talking about a task, it is a work that is being assigned to one person in a team. So which means I want to use the example of a football. I'm sure the guys will be excited and the girls might also know a little about ball. So when you're talking about a task, in a football team, there's going to be a midfielder, there's going to be a defender, and there's going to be a goalkeeper. That is an example of a task or a work that is being assigned to individual in a team. Then we have a teamwork. When you're talking about a teamwork, it is an interaction with team members to achieve a common goal. So when you're talking about a teamwork, it's referred to the group work. But when you're talking about a task work, it's referred to as individual work in the team. Then we have what we refer to as a team dynamics. It is a way in which team members work together in a group. And when you're talking about a team dynamics, it also refers to an unseen force that drives team members together. It is an unseen force. I actually want you to put it down. It is an unseen force that drives the team members together. Like when you're talking about team dynamics, when you're talking about what makes you guys work together perfectly. It's something that drives you, something that drives the two of you together. Like it's just like you have a friend, but you know that person is your best friend. But actually, you cannot say what makes the person your best friend, but you know she is your best friend. Likewise, in a team, there's what we refer to as a team dynamics in a team. It is an unseen force that drives team members to work together as one. Then we have what we refer to as forming. I'm not going to speak about forming in this concept. I will speak about it later. I'm not speaking about forming. I'm not speaking about storming, norming, performing, adjourning. I will speak about it later. Then we have what we refer to as a team dynamic theory. It assists to allocate tasks according to the roles of individual members. When you're talking about team dynamic theory, is are you talking about people that came up with a research and hypothesis that says that, okay, if you want your team to function properly, you must have certain number of people in your group. That is what we refer to as those theories, and we'll be looking into that. Then we have what we refer to as a grievance. There is a difference between a conflict and a grievance. Guys, I'm not talking about grieve, like you mourning someone. No, we're talking about grievance. And when you're talking about the grievance, to me, the best way to explain what grievance is for you, a grievance is unresolved conflict. I want you to put it down. A grievance is unresolved conflict. Remember, we said in the first place that conflict is actually a disagreement or a clash in opinion. But in a situation whereby that conflict is not being resolved, then it leads to grievance. Let's take, for example, I have a partner. We disagreed on opinion. No, can we come to school tomorrow? No, let's make it next week Thursday. And from there, we disagree in our opinion. And the next day, we decided not to say good morning to each other. We decided not to speak to each other. Instead of handling a document to that person like we normally do, you just drop it on the table. In small time, we now kept on ignoring each other, or we keeping a grudge. That is what we refer to as what? As a grievance. So which means that when conflict is not properly managed in the workplace, when conflict is not being solved as soon as possible, it will definitely lead to a grievance in the workplace. So a grievance is a formal complaint laid by an employee when he or she feels that he has been ill-treated or maltreated by the employer. So that is what we refer to as a grievance. It is an unresolved conflict in the workplace. And lastly, we have what we refer to as cooperation and collaboration. It is the willingness to cooperate in a team to achieve what? An objective. Willingness to work, willingness to take someone else's role, even after you finish your own role, is what we refer to as a collaboration. You're willing to help other people. Maybe you are a fast person, you're done with your own task. That is what is being assigned to you in a team. And you see someone else that is still struggling to finish his or her own task, and you decide to jump in and actually help. That is what we refer to as a collaboration. So we will be looking at some characteristics and the criteria for a successful team performance. When you're talking about a successful team, they don't have to tell you that, okay, we are successful. What do we see in that team that makes us say, okay, these are successful teams. These team members have done so well. This team member is the best. What are the criteria and the characteristics of a successful team? The first thing you're going to see is what we refer to as an interpersonal attitude and a behavior. The first one is interpersonal attitudes and the behavior of all the team members. So what does it mean? Members have a positive attitude of support. I actually want you to underline that. An attitude of support and motivation towards each other. They have an attitude of support towards each other, they motivate each other. That is what we refer to as what? An interpersonal attitude. And number two, they have a good or a sound interpersonal relationship which ensure job satisfaction, and it also increases productivity of the team. When there is an interpersonal attitude, when there is a motivation, there is a support, it actually increases the productivity of the team. And number three, members are committed, they are passionate towards achieving a common goal. So we're talking about interpersonal attitude, that is the way you interact in your team. That is what makes a team successful. That is the kind of support you give to your team members, the kind of motivation that you give to your team member is what we refer to as interpersonal attitude and a behavior. And in a situation whereby you give support to your team members, you motivate them, you make them you push them even when they are being demoralized, when the spirit is so low, you support them, it actually increases the productivity of the team member. So the first criteria of a successful team member is what is interpersonal relationship and the behavior towards each other. The number two criteria is what we refer to as a shared value. That value is very, very important, because when you're talking about the value is actually what brings you together. The value is actually what makes you start the group or start the team. And when you're talking about a shared value, it refers to shows loyalty. That is very important. I actually want you to underline that. Respect, trust towards team members despite your differences. Despite your differences means that you're coming from a different background. Sometimes you even speak a different language, but at least you can still speak English as a common language. And you see things differently. But because of the value you have, you will show loyalty to that person. You will show respect to that person. And that is the only time your team can be successful, when you have a shared value. So which means your differences is not stopping you from moving forward. Your differences is not stopping you from achieving the team aims and objectives. And at the same time, shared value also refers to respecting the knowledge and skills of other members. Respecting the knowledge and skills of other members. That is very, very important when you're talking about shared value in a successful team. Then number three, we have a communication. I think that communication aspect is very, very important, because when you look at the topics we've done in grade 11, we spoke about causes of conflict in the workplace. And one of the problems is the lack of communication. When you're working in a team, or you're working as a team, and there's no proper communication, or there's lack of communication, or there's inadequate communication, it actually brings about conflict in the workplace. So when you're talking about a successful team, what makes them successful is because they have a proper communication. What is that communication? It is a clear set of process. Okay, so when you're talking about a clear set of process, you're talking about someone that is communicating and the other person that is receiving. So we're talking about the communicator and we're talking about the receiver. That is a clear set of process, a procedures for teamwork that ensures that every team members understand his or her role. That is very important. For your team to be successful, you need the proper communication. It is the ability to communicate well. Please underline that. And make a quick decision. There is a difference between communicating and not communicating properly. I communicated, but did you communicate in the proper way? Did you use the proper channel, which is very, very important in teamwork? Communicate with team members and follows and allows for a feedback. And also, it encourages discussion about the problem so that solutions can be found. Continuous review of team progress ensures that team members can rectify. Rectify means to correct mistakes, act proactively to ensure that goals, targets are being reached. which is very, very important. So the communication is of two ways. It is from the communicator, and at the same time it is to the receiver. So when you are communicating as a team member, you need to make sure is people getting what I'm saying, because sometimes people might you give an information, or you send messages to people don't even receive those messages, maybe because you didn't communicate on time, or maybe you didn't use the proper channel, or sometimes you didn't even make a follow-up to see if people are actually receiving the information which I'm sending out. So it's very, very important for team members to have a proper communication so that they can be successful. So when we see a successful team, what do we see in them? Number one, interpersonal attitude, that is positive attitude, support and motivation. Shared values, that is the loyalty, the respect and acknowledging other people's skills. Number three is communication. The communication aspect is very, very important. And number four, we have what we refer to as, which is the last one, the cooperation, or what we refer to as the collaboration. When you're talking about the collaboration, it clearly defines realistic. Please underline that. When you're talking about realistic goals are being set, being realistic means it's achievable, it's attainable. People can achieve it. Being realistic means that by tomorrow we must finish this page. So we're not saying by tomorrow we must finish a textbook. That is not being realistic. So that all members know exactly what is to be accomplished or what is going to be achieved. Then number two, the willingness to cooperate as a unit. So when you're talking of a unit, you're talking as one to achieve team objectives, to agree on methods, ways to get the job done effectively without wasting time on conflict resolution. Can you see? So in a team, there will always be a conflict, but the manager mustn't waste too much time trying to solve all those problems and conflict. You must solve the conflict as soon as possible and move on to the actual task of the day. And at the same time, all members take part in decision making. So when you're talking about collaboration, it's all about working together, irrespective of who the person is, where the background of the person, the language, the culture, the ethnicity. It doesn't matter. When you find yourself in a team, you need to be able to cooperate, you need to be able to collaborate, and at the same time, all members need to take part in decision making, and at the same time there must be willingness to cooperate as a unit. So when you're working as a team, it's not all about you. You're not stealing, there's no spotlight for you. It's all about the team, it's all about the business, it's all about the production manager alone, it's all about the purchasing manager, it's all about the business as one. So when you find yourself in the workplace, you must cooperate, you must be able to collaborate, you need to be helpful so that the goals and the objectives of the business can be achieved. So we have 4 criteria of a successful team. We have the interpersonal relationship and the behavior, we have the shared values, we have a communication, and we have a collaboration. So when we see a team that is being successful, we see that group of people that are achieving the best in that workplace, or that business is very successful. Those are the 4 things they actually have, which makes them a successful team in that business. So that is very, very important. And I will be expecting a question on that, or you want me to explain anything when you're going through the notes. And yeah, so let me just quickly look at something under the communication. I actually want you to write something that I said. When you look at the last bullet of the communication, it says a continuous review of team progress ensures that team members can rectify. I said that word rectify means to correct mistakes and act proactively before it happens. That is before anything happens, before maybe in case of a crisis, the business or the management will be able to put things in place before it happens. So when you're talking about being proactive, it's planning before anything happens to ensure that the goals and targets are being reached in the business. So that aspect is also very, very important. The communication, the collaboration is very important. You must be helpful, and at the same time, you must be willing to support other members in the business. So I will move on to the next stage, which is 8.3. I want to look into the stages of team performance. Stages of team performance. I will continue in the next clip.